Movie prequels are a money man's dream. They're easy to write, they're easy to market, and they offer an opportunity to fix a multitude of sins. Troublesome actor? Recast them with a younger alternative. Worried about the film making money? You can just pander to the same people who loved what came before. Not got an idea for a plot? Don't worry, having the original movie as an endpoint excuses a lack of narrative purpose. Excellent! Except, sometimes it isn't. I'm Ben from What Culture, and here are 9 movie prequels that created massive plot holes. Number 9. Kirk's multiple birth dates. Thanks to its time-traveling plot, J.J. Abrams' reboot of Star Trek is mostly rather impenetrable to plot holes, and any continuity issues can be batted away. It can't fix everything, though, like the issue of Kirk's birth. The Shatner version was born on Earth on March the 22nd, 2233. Yet in the alternate reality, he's born in space a couple of months earlier, which makes no sense since his mother was going into labor before Nero even attacked. That's just sloppy craftsmanship. J. Number 8. The Jedi hide wearing their normal clothes. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. For all the moaning about the prequels, there aren't too many plot holes in Episodes 1 to 3. There's plenty of moments where George Lucas tinkers clumsily with the mythology, but for the most part, they don't discredit anything that was stated before. They just made some naff films. One of the most accepted additions to the Star Wars canon the prequels made was that the standard Jedi garb was the moth-eaten cloths worn by Yoda and Obi-Wan whilst in exile. This sort of makes sense, but it creates a rather major issue. When the Jedi Order is attacked and the few survivors have to go into hiding, why do they continue to wear their Jedi robes? Surely the first course of action when going into exile would be to not look like a Jedi, fools. Number 7. What's up with all the different bishops? Alien vs. Predator. Blame this on Lance Henriksen needing a paycheck. Henriksen first appeared as Bishop in Aliens, then popped up at the end of Alien 3 as Bishop 2, the human creator of his earlier character. That's already a bit tenuous, but fits the timeline. Sort of. 10 years later, he then appeared in AVP as Charles Bishop Wayland, founder of the Wayland Corporation, a role that just raised more questions than it answered. Why was a regular android modeled on and named after a CEO from centuries ago? And why did Bishop 2 bleed when smacked with a pipe if he wasn't a human? And if he was, why did he look identical to the company founder? And then Prometheus furthered the whole confusion, throwing in an unconvincingly aged Guy Pearce as Peter Wayland. Number 6. Mike forgets when he met Sully. Monsters University. The central story of Monsters University is the right kind of prequel, as it's standalone and feels like an arc that can work independently of what everyone knows happens later. Sadly, it still has plot hole problems. In the seminal Monsters Inc., Mike quips to Sully that he's been jealous of his good looks since the 4th grade, and when Monsters University kicks off with a 4th grader age Mike on a school trip, it appears as though the film's going to pay off on this throwaway line. Except it doesn't. The pair meet as college freshmen with no elementary school antics ever discussed. Number 5. Who built the motel? Psycho 4. A prequel to Psycho was always totally unnecessary, since the original more than satisfyingly explains how Norman Bates became a cross-dressing killer. Any prequel would have to be a complete reimagining or a completely pointless retread of what was already established. Either way, they f***ed it up. In Psycho, when chatting with future victim Marion Crane, Norman reveals it was his mother's lover's idea to build the motel, yet when the boyfriend turns up in the prequel, the worst place to stay in the Tri-County area is already up and running. Number 4. Skynet knows about Kyle Reese with no explanation. Terminator Salvation. The mechanics of time travel in the Terminator franchise change from film to film, so any issues across the franchise can be brushed aside with ease. It's somewhat ironic, then, that the film with the biggest plot hole is the one that doesn't bother with time travel at all. Salvation's plot dealt with Skynet kidnapping Kyle Reese as bait in a complex scheme to kill John Connor. That's all well and good, but it's impossible because it's already established that Skynet doesn't know Kyle Reese is John's father. If they did, why would they keep insisting on sending robots back before Sarah Connor is pregnant and not go for Reese immediately, essentially forcing the creation of their nemesis? Dafties. Number 3. How did this world become the world of the original trilogy? X-Men: Days of Future Past. Continuity was so poor in the X-Men series that Days of Future Past was basically a means to fix the timeline in one go. Frustratingly, while aiming to get rid of those errors, Days of Future Past introduced its own confusing logic leaps. For instance, before Wolverine jumped back to alter the flow of events, it's implied events were heading towards the world seen in the original trilogy. But how could that be the case when Charles is a powerless recluse, Magneto is in an impenetrable jail, and Mystique is starting a genuine war. 3 situations that in no way could lead to the calm-ish world of the original trilogy. Are we really meant to believe the Sentinels were active during all of Magneto's misadventures yet were never called upon? I don't think so. Number 2. Rafiki teaches contradictory lessons. The Lion King 1.5. Disney's early straight-to-DVD sequels were mostly a complete disgrace, but The Lion Kings 2 were actually good, with the third one offering an alternate take on the original events with a sense of reverence. Well, mostly. The Lion King 1.5 details the lives of Timon and Pumbaa before they met Simba, seeing them unwittingly interact with earlier events in the film. It's nice, but one key plot point goes too far and mucks the whole series up. It turns out Hakuna Matata, the catchy mantra that totally waylays Simba from facing his past, was given to Timon by Rafiki, the same baboon who'd later convince an older Simba it was the wrong outlook on life. So, does he just go wandering around throwing out random contradictory philosophy to anyone who'll listen? I suppose you could call him a contradictory condescending life lesson baboon for whackers. Contradictory condescending life lesson baboon for whackers. Number 1. Gandalf is a forgetful idiot. The Hobbit trilogy. Even though there were plenty of the Lord of the Rings characters not in Tolkien's original book present in the Hobbit films, for the most part that didn't mess with their later appearance. In fact, the character Jackson bungled the most was one of the few who'd actually play a prominent role in both stories and shouldn't be too hard to get right. At the start of the Fellowship of the Ring, Gandalf has to rush off to Minas Tirith to research Bilbo's One Ring and comes to the shocking conclusion that Sauron has returned. Which really shouldn't be all that surprising given he faced the Necromancer in the Desolation of Smaug, correctly identifying him as the Dark Lord. Obviously Gandalf isn't an all-knowing being, shown to have his vices and logical oversights in the original trilogy. But after The Hobbit it looks like he followed Radagast's lead and spent the intervening years eating memory-altering mushrooms. And that's our list. Are there any other prequel plot holes we missed off? Let us know in the comments below and don't forget to like, share and subscribe. You can even follow me here on Twitter if you fancy. I'm Ben from What Culture, and thanks for watching.